Okay, welcome back. So a couple things we're going to talk about. So how do you become a corporation? So you incorporate, and to do that you file with the state and you say, I want to be a corporation in your state, and here are the people who are on my board of directors, and here's how many shares I want to be able to sell, and here's what kind of business I am, and you pay a fee. And once it gets approved, then you're a corporation. Okay, management of corporations. A corporation is managed by the board of directors. So where do you get this board of directors? The board of directors is elected by the common shareholders. So all the shareholders, basically for every share you own, you get one vote. And once a year, there's an annual meeting, and all sorts of things you might vote on, but one of the things is on your board of directors. A lot of times the president or CEO of the company is on the board of directors. Maybe some of the other officers in the company might be on the board of directors. If you're a public company, there is a requirement to have either one or two outside directors, and those outside directors have to serve on the audit committee, so they oversee the financial statement audit. That came through as part of Sarbanes-Oxley after the whole Enron scandal, just for additional oversight. So, and an outside director is someone who doesn't work for the company. So you usually will have a mix of people who do and don't work for the company. Directors on the board of directors, they're usually paid some sort of a stipend plus travel expenses. This is kind of the dream job for people who work in business all their life and work their way up to being CEOs and CFOs and things like that. Usually what they like to do when they retire is get hired as directors of a couple of public companies. And so they work, a handful of days a year. They get a little bit of income, but they've still got their finger in the pie without having to actually do the 9 to 5 every day. So one of my friends recently retired. She's from the Silicon Valley. She was a CFO at a bunch of different companies. And so now she's working with different companies. She's on the board of a company in Canada, and she's actually working to get a couple other board seats. So it's kind of like the dream cushy job for the end of your career. So something maybe to think about for your retirement plan. All right, let's talk about the rights of the common shareholders. And we're going to talk about the difference between common and something else called preferred. But this is the rights of the common shareholders. And common stock is like your base stock. Like if you're a corporation, you have to have common stock. That's the whether you sell it or you give it away or whatever you do, you have to have common stock. Then you can also have other kinds of stock or even different classes of common stock, but you have to have your base common stock, which is like just the basic owners of the company. So these are the rights we're talking about. You have a right to vote. 1 share, 1 vote. So if I own 10 shares, I get 10 votes. If I own, 100,000 shares, I get 100,000 votes. A lot of times, and you've probably seen this, like if you've watched Shark Tank, people want to own 51% of their company because then they get 51% of the vote and they always get what they want. So if you are an owner of a company and you are a corporation and you decide to issue shares of stock, you may want to think about how many you issue relative to how many you own yourself, because that's other people who get a vote, and then you may not always get your way, which might be okay. You have the right to sell or dispose of your stock. So a corporation can't say to you, like, hey, buy my stock, and by the way, you can't sell it. Now, there's some exceptions to that, specifically with when you get stock as part of your compensation when you're an employee. They may say that, especially when a company goes public, has an IPO or initial public offering, they may say you can't sell your stock for 90 days, but those are rare. For the most part, as a shareholder, you have a right to sell or dispose of your stock. I can sell it, I can give it to my cousin, I can give it to all of you, I can do whatever I want with it. Preemptive right to purchase your proportional share of the new issue is called the preemptive right. Okay, here's what this means. If I own, say a company's issued 100 shares, and I own 10 of them, I own 10% of the company. If they want to issue another 100 shares, I get first dibs on another 10 of those so that I can maintain my 10% ownership in the company. Now, if I don't want to buy them, I don't have to. But when they sell them to someone else and there's now 200 shares outstanding, my 10 10 shares is only going to give me a 5% ownership of the company. So basically what this right says that you can't just issue a bunch of shares and someone who owned 40% of the company now only owns 5% of the company. You have to give them first dibs on being able to maintain their ownership percentage. Okay? All right, dividends. If the company pays dividends, and they don't have to, companies are not required to pay dividends. But if they want to, all the shareholders get to equally share in those dividends. So I can't say like, I'm paying a dividend, but only to my 3 friends over here. If I could declare a dividend, everyone shares in it, even Steven. Same thing upon liquidation, the assets. So everyone shares when if you liquidate the company, you close the company, you sell all the assets, you pay off all the creditors, whatever's left gets shared equally among all the shareholders. I can't say, well, I'm going to pay back my friends first and then other people next, me being the board of directors. So pretty much everybody's in the same boat, right? Depending on how many shares you own. But my 1 share gives me the exact same rights as your 1 share and your 1 share and your 1 share. All right, so that is that. I'm going to stop the video, and then we're going to keep rocking and rolling through our skeletal notes. All right, see you then.